to the buyer's guide for the Honda S2000. This is going to be the driving aspect of it, test drive. First thing I do is get into the car, get myself into the right position, adjust the side mirrors, rear view mirror, insert the key, and turn the engine on for the first time. And you want to listen for any odd noises. Ideally, this should be a cold start, any engine lights and so forth. So here we go. I'm going to turn the car on. ABS light goes on and then off. All right. ABS on. There's no engine light and there's no oil pressure light. If you see the oil pressure light more than a very short period as the car is turning on, that should be a walk away message. All right, so the engine is idling. There's no unusual noises, no excessive valve noise or TCT. All right, so I'm going to put the AC on. And first thing I'm going to do, I'm in a parking lot right now, and I'm going to feel that clutch as I'm pulling out for the first time. How does the clutch feel? The S2000 has a different clutch feel depending on the AP1 or AP2s. So the AP1 has a stiffer clutch, so you're going to feel that, but make sure it's grabbing nicely. Right now I'm accelerating, I'm at 1,500 RPMs and just pulling the clutch and see how that feels. It's not slipping. And what I'm going to do, since I'm in the parking lot, I'm going to go around here and just do some figure eights. If I hear any odd suspension noises, any knocking sounds, so everything sounds pretty smooth. All right, very good. Sometimes if there's a suspension issue, you'll hear at this point. Backwards, no problems. Back into first gear, second, when engage rear, reverse, everything feels good. Back into first gear. Negotiate the steering all the way. Now I'm going to continue and get on the road. Sometimes you get a bit of a clutch buzz on these cars, but not too much. This engine's already warmed up, so I'm gonna bring it up to 5. I'm gonna shift. See how the engine shifts, how smooth this is. 4th gear. You know, you're gonna hear some noises, squeaks and rattles. This is very normal for the S2000, especially with the soft top. Downshift. One thing I also do is put it into 3rd gear, a lower RPM, and step on it and see if you experience any slipping on the gearbox and clutch. So here I am, I stopped at a stop sign, we're listening to the engine, make sure the AC is working well. Back into 1st gear. There we go, slowly on the clutch, on a VTEC. 2nd gear. VTEC engagement. You should really feel when the VTEC engages. Almost like push you back a bit on your seat. Almost. The steering. How does the steering feel when you apply the brakes? Does it pull to one side or another? See, this car is working just fine. Turns. Braking the car, and you shouldn't feel any vibrations on the pedal, and sometimes that could indicate that there could be some warping of the rotors. It could be some normal maintenance, but that's the best case scenario if you have some vibration on the steering wheel or on the pedal, especially at highway speeds. That usually indicates the rotors are warped and need to be resurfaced. Listen to the car. Always, avoid. Sometimes sellers want to really talk about their car during the test drive, and my suggestion is to minimize conversations during the test drive so you can hear as much as you can about the car. Take it back in the next. VTAC. Third gear. Fourth gear. Now make sure that the car drives straight. There's no pulling from one side or the other. This car is driving pretty straight. If it's pulling to the right or left, it could be an alignment issue, or it could be something more significant. Okay. Driving, brakes, apply the brakes in different speeds. Take it through the turns. Twisty roads if you can. Make sure there's no engine lights going on as you drive the car. Ask the seller, have you ever had an engine light? And what was the issue? How was it addressed? Like I said, take it down to third gear on a lower RPM, maybe 2000 on AP1, and step on it. See if you experience any slippage on the clutch. Fourth gear. Make sure that the gearbox doesn't have any grinds or difficulty in the shift. It should be very smooth. The AP2s may be actually smoother than the AP1s, but should be no grinding, no difficulty in shifting. Once you're shifting, if you feel any issues with the gear, with the getting into gear, and hear some grinding, sometimes that could be an issue with the clutch fluid or a problem with the system. So it needs to be addressed. Okay. Sometimes the clutch master cylinder, for example, when that's going out, you hear some grinding difficulty engaging in gear. Eventually you won't be able to engage it in gear at all. Fifth gear. So just really listen to the car. Tell the seller that when you start the test drive that you're gonna talk very little, you're gonna be listening to the car, and allow him to ask her or him to allow you to ask questions and talk as appropriate, so you can really listen to what the car is telling you. There's a message that you're gonna get through this test drive. Okay. Go. Pedal. How's the pedal feel? It should be nice and tight. It should be a strong pedal feel. How does the brake feel? Second gear. Third. There's some notching on it. You hear like a notching transition from gears. So you feel some resistance on the shifting. It's normal. Not necessarily resistance, but you'll feel it when you're engaged in the next gear over. Brake, downshift, third gear, straight. This feels very nicely. So the car should be very solid. It should be not pulling to one side or the other. You should get no vibrations on your brake pedal nor your steering. If you get vibrations, that could mean as simple as resurfacing the rotors or getting new rotors, and that's an area that you can negotiate with the seller on price. If there's any resistance on the shifting, any grinding when you have the clutch depressed and you're shifting, that could be a clutch master cylinder problem, and that's probably the best case scenario. There should be no like any additional sounds when you're shifting gears, such as metallic sounds on the gearbox or anything like that. You know, ask the seller, you know, try to get information about what his shifting practices are. You know, does the seller skip any gears? You don't want to be skipping gears from first to third. That could potentially create problems with your synchros. And if you're hearing any metallic sounds when you're shifting from one gear to another on this car, you want to ask some questions. There should be no sounds coming from this gearbox. It should all be transmitted through your hands. You feel the gear from first, second, third, and so forth. Slowing down here, back to third, second, go, accelerate, third. This car is very responsive. The throttle responsive, there should be no bonking of the engine, no delays in the acceleration. This car has a very active and responsive throttle. So there should be none of that. Okay. How does the suspension feel? Do you feel any excessive bouncing? Make sure by that time you already know if it's a stock suspension or not. There should be no noises or knocking sounds or coming from the suspension. This car should feel very solid. As you go through the highway and different road types, take a moment to stop, slow down, listen to the engine. Make sure there's no changes in the way the engine is revving and the way it's idling. Is there consistency in the way the car is performing throughout now that it's warmed up? So we got different road conditions here. We have some bumps on the road. We got some construction. Just cruising in third gear at about 4,500 RPMs at an AP1. Brake, accelerate, brake, see how the car feels. Third gear, VTEC. You know, there should be a very pronounced change in tone of the engine and sound. It should almost a flip of a switch kind of a thing with the AP1s. Should be, of course, no knocking from the engine. Okay. Good. This car is performing beautifully. If I was test driving this car, it would pass with flying colors. And like I said, very important, when you start before you get in the car for the test drive, set expectations with the seller, exactly what you're going to do. Let him or her know that you're going to be taking the car to different rev ranges. So you're going to hit VTEC, you approach red line, you'll do some braking. You want to experiment local roads plus highway to see if the car is pulling, how the braking sensation feels, how the engine power band is, smooth power band, right? And most importantly, especially sellers who are passionate about their cars, they tend to engage you in conversations during the test drive to tell everything about the car, what's been done, and that's all great, but there's a better time for that, which is after or before the test drive. During the test drive, you want to really be listening to the story of the car. You don't want to be listening to the seller unless you have any questions. You want to listen to the car. Beautiful. This is the end of the buyer's guide. Test drive